All right, welcome back to the podcast. Today we have Ari, aka Rabbi Flo, on. Ari, thank you for coming on the podcast.
It's a pleasure to be here, Brandon. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so what I love to do is I like to kind of read through people's LinkedIn bios. So I'm going to read yours because I feel like people put a lot of thought process into that, especially for things that they'd like people to know. So your LinkedIn bio says, "Let my people flow!" Exclamation point. Mentoring you and infusing flow in your mind, body, career, marriage, and spirituality since 2022. Can you tell me about why you put all that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've spent hours over the past couple of years on that.
I bet.
I mean, it's first of all, what I do is very holistic and it's like across many areas of life. And like, what is it? It's hard to say. But flow is really one of the best words. And the rabbi there for reasons. Like I am one, and the spiritual perspective I have on things is really, really important in the work that I do. Um, I find more and more that um, it's like it doesn't make a difference what belief system a person is a part of, but very often certain issues in life are much easier to deal with from just a practical standpoint when you put them in the context of a spiritual lens,
Mm.
especially like a person's challenge, the thing that comes up for them again and again and again, the thing that they just don't want to have to deal with anymore, but is constantly like staring at them in the face. Um, Seeing that through a spiritual lens and a purposeful lens is very, very important. And so I feel like that tagline, more than anything I've used till now, really um, is best describes what I can do, which is hard to describe, but it's really to give people a full perspective and a full sense of who they are that helps them flow in all areas of life.
Mm. It's really beautifully said. Thank you for that. That was a really good explanation. That's
Thanks.
wonderful. Yeah.
So happens when
Ar-
you spend like 3.5 years on the same episode.
yeah, no, it's wonderful. So, you discovered snowboarding as a kid and later fell into flow through Jewish mysticism at 17. How did those early peak experiences shape your relationship with flow, and how did that evolve into your coaching practices?
Yeah, it's well, first of all, I mean, it was something that pulled me in.
Hmm.
Um, this work that I do is not my ability to do it and my desire to do it is like not manufactured. Like it's just very, very innate. Um, I always really enjoyed having the opportunity to like listen and read people. Um, when I can like open up a person's world to them, it infuses me with like a ton of energy. Like it feels a conversation to me feels very similar to a ride on a snowboard. Um, in the sense that it starts at the top, you start going down, and it has a life of its own. And when I get to the bottom, when we get to the end of it, I just feel more alive than I did in the beginning.
Hmm.
So it's all really an addiction to a sense of aliveness and beauty, purpose, something that just feels right. You can't explain why it feels right, but it just feels right. Um, that is, I think I'm addicted to experiences like if you tell me why something is good and why I should do it, and I agree with you and I think I should do it, that's great. But if something just feels so good to do and I can't explain why, it just does, that feels even better.
So you've been helping people since, I guess, and I should put this in context, like in a coaching or a helpful way since 2022. But before that, when did you realize like you looked at conversations differently than other people around you?
That's a really good question. Like when was like the moment of awareness of my own weirdness? When did that take place?
You and I both know I love the word weird, so keep going,
I know I
please.
get you with that one, right? It's a really good question, actually. I don't, I don't know if I even know. I mean, I had experiences mentoring people. I think that back in 2015, would have been 2016-ish, 2017, someone who I mentored in 2015 flew me out to like asked me to fly out to his wedding, which itself was like, wow. And then when I got to his wedding, he surprised me with like this huge honor. And
Wow.
that whole night, everyone was like walking up to me like, wow, like you're the guy who the groom honored, like, and like I never in my life was looked at that way before. Like I never experienced being in a room and feeling like I was at the top. And it was simply just, he came to me one day as like a man who was younger than I was, saying, I need a mentor. Can you help me out? And, we talked, and sometimes I probably said good things, and sometimes I probably was off, and sometimes I was helpful to him, and sometimes maybe I hurt his feelings a little bit. Like, I didn't think that much of it, but it was it was definitely a weird moment where I realized, okay, like I think I might have something here, like not just in my head, but that people actually really, really value. But, I just, another thing that really I think was a huge push forward was a dream that I had back in 2019 where I saw my spiritual mentor in a dream and I saw him demonstrate the work of healing people to me in the dream. And it
Mm.
played twice over. Like I dreamt the dream and that it was like rewind and it played again. It was, I woke up from that and I was like, okay, I think that, I think God wants me to do something in this space. Like it feels to me like it's coming soon, And so, and then practically when I did, when I found a somatic therapist and I did that work back in 2020 and 2021, and I had an incredible experiences doing that work. But what I also realized doing that work was that I could do the work itself. Like I would go into a session and I would kind of be downloading. I wouldn't just be going to it and experiencing something therapeutic. I would be downloading like the techniques, like in a way, like, it's like Neo as soon as he plugs in and he starts downloading like Kung Fu and stuff. It was like I couldn't get enough of it. And in between sessions, I would just practice it on my own and I could do it. Like I saw I could do it. I knew I could do it. And I knew I could teach other people how to do it as well. and and so that's when I was like, okay, I think I need to do this. I need to try to do this. Um, but it was all thinking, hoping. The real holy shit moments were when I actually started doing it and I saw people's lives change and I was like, okay, it's undeniable now.
Hmm. Can you explain to me in your words, like what is like somatic therapy or somatic practices?
It's a really, really good question. And the definition that I've come up with, which I think is the best, is there's a lot of different flavors of that ice cream in terms of how you do it. The external technique can look very different between something, let's say, somatic experiencing or something like ecstatic dance or Feldenkrais. So all different somatic methods, and there's so many more. But the common thing among all of them is a reversal of the normal flow of information between our cognitive brain and the sensations in our body. So in most activities that we do, and even in most therapies that we try, the initiator of the dance is the thinking brain, our thoughts, what we're thinking. And then those thoughts produce emotions, and eventually there's body sensations that go along with it. So It's usually the body is following the mind.
Hmm.
Um, Somatic practice is training ourselves in the opposite experience where the mind goes along with the body. So I was just speaking to someone about this earlier today, and he was saying like, oh, it's like that meditation, like how once he was saying how once he did this meditation where he starts from the bottom of his feet and he focuses on every single body part up to the top of his head. And I'm like, that's getting closer, but in a way, like, no, because you're like choreographing the experience. You're saying going into it, I'm starting with my feet and I'm going up to my head. What it really is I'm paying attention to my body now and I'm going to take it wherever it's leading me. So how you do that's it's a little bit more complex how you do that because there's not really a prompt, there's not really a starting point. There might be some things that you use to kind of get yourself into it, but it only really starts being really somatic work when you begin to see that the body has a mind of its own and your mind is not leading the dance but is following it.
That's real deep.
Yeah, and it opens us up to a different dimension of who we are.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And I mean, some of the I have clients who've done I haven't done, but clients who've done psychedelics, and after I've led them into these experiences, said to me that felt like it, like a milder version of it for sure, but
Hmm.
it definitely felt like it was of the same family.
My head immediately went to like one of those like almost third person views where you're almost like looking at yourself. Like, and I'm only referenced this from shows or movies or whatever, but it's almost like a third person view of your over top of yourself, of looking down of an experience that you're having. Has that ever been referenced in any of this?
Um, it's definitely a different perspective of yourself, but I think it's the opposite of the third person view. I think it's almost looking at yourself from within even more.
Jeez.
It's really it's you know, if you think about times in your life where you felt something for the first time and you're like, holy shit, like, whoa, like, I didn't even know I could feel that. You think about the most sensational experiences you've had, which usually came when you tried or did something, unique or extreme that you've never done before. Imagine being able to feel that just sitting in a chair only by changing the way you're focusing and thinking and relating to your body. It's wild. I mean, it's one thing if you jump off a bridge and you do bungee jumping and you feel ecstatic. It's another thing to sit in a chair and feel ecstasy just feeling the aliveness of your body from within.
Hmm.
It's it gives you a totally different it completely changed. I mean, I spent years in mystical studies, mysticism and spiritual work and all that stuff, but it totally changed my relationship to God and spirituality because you see and you experience that you have a very alive being within your physical within you usually spiritually we're naturally orienting to our minds to like above us to the sky to you know but I mean, if you when you really get in your body and you see the aliveness from within, you realize God is much more there than he is up in your head. Like
Hmm.
it's just the sensation of aliveness, of trust, of oneness, of inner peace, everything, all the things the spiritual works of any religion or any, mystic talk about, it's in there. You feel it, you experience it. It's like it was for me it wasn't just healing in the sense that I finally felt release of depression and anxiety and stress that I'd felt for years that didn't let go of me, that I couldn't shake off. But it was always also this like, holy shit moment of like, now I know what I was reading. Now I know that text that I've been studying for years. Now I know what it's talking about. Now I feel it.
It was almost like a light bulb moment.
It is. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Man, it's so interesting because I think it took like took me a while to run into like the center alignment of like my core values as a human being, of like what's really important to me in the word sense. You know what I mean? Like humor and potential are like two words that are like my North Star, like focusing on those two things, whether that be for myself or for other people. That's like two huge words in my world, in the way I want to live my life and to help other people. And so it took me probably I did many exercises through leaderships and coaching and all that stuff. And once those two words like hit me, I was like, I love making people laugh in any form imaginable. And then I also love increasing my own potential, whether that be through hobbies or learning new things, but also seeing that in other people to be like, why are you limiting yourself? And I can imagine like that personal alignment for me on like, oh, this is the wall I should put my ladder against, and I should just keep climbing because it makes me feel good, and it aligns with, with who I want to be. Yours is on like such a profound level. Those are just words for me, where you're talking about something that like completely changes your perception of yourself and the way like you're allowing the world to kind of influence you or not, right? You're taking complete control over that happiness piece.
Yeah, as best we can. But I mean, even as I hear you say what you say, especially when you talk about potential, I mean, as you go deeper into that, like words cannot describe what that does for you and what that means to you. And
Mm.
it like enlivens you, and it's like you're crazy about it, you
Yep.
know? And so like there, I mean, that's it. That's it. Like and so, and there's so many ways to kind of find and seek out like what is that thing, what is that thing for us, that's it. And so I mean, simply like if you wanted to go deeper into that, just to like spend time just even asking yourself, when you think about that word, what do you feel in your body? And as that tickle of that sensation comes up, follow it and go into it and explore it, and it'll just take you there.
I hear what you're telling me. I have no idea what that means. Like it's almost like following the rabbit, or like, right, oh, go back to a Neo reference, right? Following the white rabbit on the shoulder. So it's like, yeah, I understand what you're saying, but I guess it's almost like being very intentional about the thoughts that are around that word because it has such deep meaning, and then keep exploring where those thoughts take you. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, yeah. But it's not but in this case it's less about the thoughts, and it's more about what your body, the response your body gets. Like when you hear that
Interesting.
word and you feel more aliveness, and you all of a sudden like you could be bored or tired or in a funk, and that word comes up or that opportunity comes up, and you just like spring into action and you're like, yes, I'm doing this. Like
Mm.
what is that? What's happened? What just happened in you? Like what's going on in your body? Like where do you feel that? Your chest, your mind, your belly, like your shoulders? Like did you just see like what just happened within you? And sometimes just to like sit within that, because you know we in our in this world we so often see ourselves chasing something that's outside of us that we're seeking, and it's a real game changer in life to see that what we're seeking is not outside of us, it's inside of us. It's just that something outside of us makes us feel a certain way inside. So when we locate what that is that we're feeling, we gain a lot of power and control and depth in our life, because we realize it's not about what's outside, it's what's inside.
That's brilliantly said. Do you feel the world today, with all the distractions, is a huge reason a lot of people are struggling, including myself, with that clarity?
um a lot of people like want to say how the world is such a problem, especially technology is such a problem. I and like how the challenge of like becoming whole within or exploring within is so much harder today than it would have been years ago. I don't really see it that way. You know, I think that I don't think people ever had an easy time just sitting and being with themselves and being okay. Like I mean, if you just like open up the Bible, God's like, Adam and Eve, here's this beautiful garden. Just chill out and be okay. I'll be right there. Just don't go there. And they're like, what if we go there? What are we doing here? Let's just do something. Like,
Don't tell me what to do.
there was no smartphones there. There was no politics then. It was just, and then they have a couple of kids and they're already killing each other. Like it's like people think like the devil was like invented today. Like it's like, you know, there's a great, fantastic story about a disciple who goes to his rabbi and he tells his rabbi that he's learned so much, so many deep spiritual teachings, and he's from his rabbi and he appreciates it so much, and he's teaching them to others, which is so meaningful to him. But he notices that as he teaches others, he's developing a sense of arrogance and pride. Like, look at me, look how great I am, everyone's listening to me. And he almost feels discouraged to continue teaching because he feels that it's kind of ripping at his soul, this like ever increasing. He notices there's just an increasing sense of arrogance. So his teacher tells him, let me tell you a story. When God created the world, put Adam and Eve there, he wanted to give them a test. So he gets the snake. He says, I'm making you into a snake, and you're going to go and you're going to try to test them. And the snake is like, come on, they're not going to listen to me. God's like, don't worry about it. You'll do just fine. So Adam and Eve eat from the apple. Snake wins, but the snake goes to God and says, look, I tricked them once. I'm not going to trick them again. God's like, don't worry about it. I'll change you into something else. We're going to make you I forgot what it was. So then that works. And then there's a revelation on Mount Sinai, and it comes back to God and says, what, you know, I think it was the angel of death or something like that. After the revelation around Sinai, the angel of death felt it's not going to work anymore. You've revealed yourself too much. They have all this stuff now from you to do, the Ten Commandments. I'm not really going to be influential anymore. God's like, don't worry about it. I got a plan for you. We're going to turn you into arrogance. So that when people do all the things that I asked them to do, they become so religious and arrogant. They think they're better than everyone else. You'll get them in that with arrogance. He's like, thanks God, that's going to work just fine. Does that for a couple thousand years, and then the new spiritual movements and the mystical movements, mysticism kind of sprang up a couple hundred years ago, and the arrogance goes to God and says, God, like they've identified me. Everyone's like afraid of being arrogant. Oh, like I'm out of business. What should I do? God's like, don't worry. I got a new one for you. You're going to be now the fear of arrogance.
Oh
So
my
people
God.
won't do good things because they're going to be afraid that it's going to build up their egos and their arrogance. You'll do just fine. So now you have tons of people with all their potential and all the things that they can do, but they're afraid to do it because they're like, they don't want to make themselves into something. And I'm sure you experience this. Like, as someone who wants to build people up and help them reach their potential, you've seen how people are tripped up and like being something. It's the new version of the devil, new and improved.
Jeez. That
So it
fear
was
is
never
real.
easy. It was never easy. It was always hard. It always will be hard. That's part of our life. That's our purpose, is to fight that, is to identify it.
That's really good. When you sent me a note originally on LinkedIn, you triggered me with the word weird because you knew it's one of my favorite words. And I think that's exactly it. I think a lot of people are so afraid of just being authentically themselves and just sending it. Like, the world, like, we all want to look the same because we have all of this stuff around us, when like the people who step out a little bit and just be yourself, as long as it's, you know try obviously helpful and doesn't hurt other people and all of that stuff, like, there's huge benefits to that.
Yeah.
Absolutely massive benefits to that. Just like this, like, I would have never been able to have a conversation with you and be so enlightened if I wouldn't have started this podcast. But before I started, I was like, is this weird? Should I do this? This is strange. Who's going to actually care? Who's going to listen? And I finally went like, who cares if no one listens? If I get to meet fun new people, that's what I'm after. So who
I
cares?
know. And that's what people crave. Like what people look up to someone who is so comfortable in who they are.
Mm.
Like, because everyone is so uncomfortable with themselves. Everyone's like putting up this like facade of how happy they are, but they hate themselves all the time, and they all they want to do is just stop being the shitty thing that they are.
Mm.
And it's like if you see someone who is so comfortable with himself that he even just puts himself out there for other people to just make fun of, and he's like laughing his head off. Like everyone's like, I want that. When I did some intense study here in Israel, and when I was done, I became so attached to one of my teachers. It was almost like, it was such a deep connection. I remember I was just at one point I just invited myself over to his house at will. I didn't even ask anymore. He would just leave at night to go home on the weekend, to walk home and have dinner with his family. And I just started following him to his house because I just wanted to join. And he looked at me and he's like, "All right." So when when the year was up, and my time in heaven was over, he looked at me and he told me, be what we taught you to be. Just make sure to be what we've taught you to be. And I asked him, what does that mean? How will I know that I've done what you've taught me? And he said it was the most unconventional answer that I'll never forget. He said, if you walk down the street and people see you and want to be like you, you've done it.
Dang.
Yeah.
I'm glad we're both obsessed with the word weird. That makes me feel a lot better.
I think you should play that message I sent you, the audio, as part of this podcast, because like I mean that's the thing. Like that's why I'm able to have converse, because like I've tried messaging people with like, the template stuff and whatever, and I've just
Mhm.
like done all the things that now I regret doing. But I mean, nothing beats just being authentic and real and just putting yourself out there with someone. Like you send a message to 5 people and one of them answer, or 20 people and one of them answers, but like now you have a conversation you never would have had, a relationship you never would have had. Like it's so worth it. Like who cares about the people who didn't answer? They're probably busy, and they're probably also thinking, wow, that was a really cool thing this person did. I don't know if I can handle that. It was so cool.
That's exactly what they're thinking. No, I totally agree. Uh, um, it's yeah. There's a lot there, man. I love that you followed somebody home to their dinner. That's so good.
Yeah. So what happened was, is when it started was is that I was in this school, and every month they would have like it was like it was boarding, like everyone lived there, but once a week, I mean once a month, everyone would go home, everyone who like so the Israelis would go home. It was in Israel, so the Israelis would go to their families. The Americans who were there had cousins or other people there. I didn't have anyone I wanted to go to. I was happy there. I just wanted to stay. There were a couple of other people who stayed, so I would stay. And there was food and everything we needed. But whenever I would stay, I would notice that when I saw him, he always would make sure, did you have enough food? He was a
Mm.
spiritual teacher, but he was so grounded and he was so caring. I mean, one morning there just wasn't snacks, and early in the morning when people were studying, and I said, "There's no snacks." He would just go home and bring food, and he just brought food from his house, like, here, eat. Um, so he would always ask me, like, is there enough food? Do you have fish? He would always ask if there's fish, because there's like a Kabbalistic idea to eat fish on the Sabbath. So I realized this is my in. Like, if I wait till there's no food and I tell him there's no food, he's going to invite me over to his house. So I was like, I'm doing this. So I waited till like 2 in the afternoon to look for lunch, and there was obviously no lunch left. And I went over to him and I'm like, there's no food. He's like, come over. So that's how I initially got in. And then I
It's
liked it so
brilliant.
much. I liked it so much that I just started following him. Oh,
Like a puppy dog on the way home.
it was totally like that. It was totally like that. And he just flowed with it. He flowed with it.
That's really great. let me ask you a little bit about the somatic exercises. Can you give maybe the audience who's like, okay, this sounds like something that could be super helpful for me? Can you give me some exercises or an exercise that would be helpful for couples, or maybe that you have helped couples with that could be beneficial for them?
Interesting. I actually haven't done somatic work with a couple.
Mm.
The couples work is just more really um, was a totally different animal that started much more recently. Um, so so I've never guided groups in a somatic exercise. I guess I could try that, but it hasn't come up yet.
Mm.
So if a person wants to do something somatic, I mean, there's a lot out there you can research and Google and try different things. The important thing is to keep on trying things, and the important thing is to feel it should feel subtle. It should feel very nuanced. It's really good though to have a teacher because it it's a unique feel and sense. And if you tried it with one person, don't think yet that you like. I'll tell you, if you haven't experienced like a holy shit moment, then you haven't experienced it.
Mm.
Like it should be like I've never felt that before. And it's not like that. It's not like it's like that every time. And as you do it more often, it's becomes less explosive. And it's not really about chasing that explosive experience. It's just that when you get that in the beginning, it's an indication that you're discovering a dimension of who you are and what you're capable of experiencing that's beyond what you previously experienced or thought. So that would be like a guiding principle. But I think it's really important to find a human that you can learn from. And there's like very and try the different things that are out there. I mean, dance, improvisational and ecstatic dance is just remarkable. Feldenkrais, if you can, and there's a lot of these things do have classes online, but I've had incredible experiences just following an audio of a Feldenkrais class. There's a website called openatm.org. It sounds almost like you're getting free money out of an ATM machine, but it stands for ATM stands awareness through movement, which is a term used in Feldenkrais, which is and you'll have a bunch of pre-recorded classes, audio classes you can follow there. But really, I think it's important to like have a human you can learn from. But couples work, if you want me to talk about that, is a totally different animal.
Yeah, please.
So what happened was I was coaching individuals who are married to like I was coaching a husband and a wife, just life coaching. And sometimes we would touch on like, relationship stuff would come up and I would coach each of them individually. But the relationship for both of them started becoming more and more of something that they wanted to work on, and they asked me to work with them together. Uh, it so I agreed, but I was very open with them and I told them that like for individual work, I had very good experiences going for individual work. And so I had somewhat of a model of an understanding of what a session should look or feel like that I could play with. But for couples work, I had nothing because I did not like the couples work that I had done. I never experienced one modality of it or one therapist who I felt really helped. It either felt like it was just conversation that didn't go anywhere, which was a lot of the therapy that I experienced, also individual, or it felt like it was almost going to a mediator to say who was right or who was wrong, and that didn't really lead to any connection either. And it actually had the opposite effect. And I also found that there was a lot of therapists who used different techniques and tools, conversation tools, listening techniques that were very helpful when they worked, but when they didn't, it was almost even more disappointing because it was like, oh, I thought if I did this or if I she did this or if I did that, like it would work, but now it doesn't work. And now there's like a real core issue coming up and it's just nothing's working. Um, and so I told them like, so they were like, okay, but we want to try anyways. So I said, okay. So we get into the meeting and I tell them, I have no idea what I'm doing right now. So you two start talking to each other. Let me watch and I'll figure this out. That is what I told them. Um,
At least you were upfront and honest. A lot of people wouldn't be.
Yeah, it was true. I have no idea what I'm doing right now, so let's figure this out. So I see them talking, and I didn't realize it's really changed. I'm so happy I've done this work because it's really helped me see and experience from a different viewpoint um, all the levels and the changes that I've made um, in that area of my life. Because when I saw them talking, I could see, oh, that was a mistake I used to make. Oh, that like I could just I kept on like it was like jumping off to me the mistakes that they were making and how they were talking to each other. So, what's become a huge method that I use when I work with couples is I start by saying, just talk to each other as if I'm not here. And then I see what's going on, and then I coach both of them in terms of how to approach these issues in the conversation differently to get the result that they're looking for.
Mm.
Um, and so they learn how in this conversation how to talk about their needs and listen to their needs in a different way. And then in between, they're practicing that as things come up. And that's just become like it's just very, very simple. And it works. It really, really works. I just finished working with a couple yesterday that came to me about 4 months ago, and this they felt. I mean, the husband was like he felt like it was heading for divorce. The wife was like, I have almost no hope left. And in our conversations the past couple sessions, I'm like, so what's up? What do you want to work on? They're like, yeah, we're really happy. Like things are going really well. I'm like, okay, great.
It has to
So
feel amazing.
yeah, yeah, I still haven't wrapped my head around it. Like I grew up where there was always a lot of arguing and fighting in the home between my parents, and they eventually got divorced when I was about 20. And like I don't think I've even fully processed or experienced how meaningful this is to me, but I know it is. I know it
Mm.
really is.
Can you remember, or do you know if you've always been super observant to people's conversations or really good at listening?
Um, yeah, I think I knew I always had something different in terms about how thoughtful I was in life and how much I could read and get a sense of people. Some of it really came up in my total disregard for authority figures because I could just feel like I look at someone and I can just see through their BS,
Mm.
and
Just
like I
just some
just,
BS.
yeah. I mean, like it's so like, I just didn't, yeah. So like, I knew that I mean, I just knew that I saw things very differently, um, in terms of how I looked at the normal hierarchies of life and how people operate. And I always felt that I was somewhat above the normal way people looked at and went through things. And I could tell that people didn't see things the way I did, but
Mm.
it didn't. I knew that there was something to what I saw.
Was your family super spiritual?
No, no,
Interesting.
no. No, what
Mm.
happened is when I was 17, I was in a summer camp. Um, it was a great idea. There was some rabbi in the New York area decided that I'm going to make a summer camp taking New York Jewish New York kids around the world snowboarding during the summer. It was awesome. We went to New Zealand, Australia,
Dang.
and he was a character. It just goes to show that when someone's following a passion, they can do anything. Because he was just he was a really cool guy. But anyways, and he somehow he pulled this whole trip off by himself. But there was a counselor there who was teaching everybody had a group, a study group. We would like study Torah and different spiritual things as part of the day. And but it was like dry, like the environment I grew up in. It wasn't like mystical, deep stuff. But there was one group that was learning, and the teacher was saying how all souls are connected in a kind of like a koosh ball. You know those koosh balls that like the
Yep.
spikes coming out? Like every tentacle is like another soul, but they all have the same core. And when he said that, it it was like it pulled me, like it zapped me so deeply. And I went over to him and I'm like, we need to talk. What the hell are you like? What did you just say? You need to tell me more. And so at the tail end of the trip, we were in Hawaii, I think, and then California. Hawaii for a week and California for a few days. And I think when we were in Hawaii, we sat down, I think one Friday night, and he talked for about an hour. And I just took in everything he said. And I felt, I could feel, it just felt so true to me. And that started and I realized, wow, I'm jumping headfirst into this mystical world. And so, I was in the high school where it was a pretty preppy school and everyone was trying to get good grades and go to college. And I was just ditching class, opening up books on mysticism and pulling kids to study with them. I didn't care. Like college was just out of the window. I just didn't care anymore. That was all I was doing. That's how it started.
That's brilliant. You certainly have lived your own life in the way you've wanted to.
Yeah, but it's been a battle. I mean, like it I went through some really dark times. Like the first couple years that I was like really into that stuff, I was on fire, but I really, really wrestled with myself a lot. And I pushed myself really hard to study more, to learn more. Um, that same mentor who I would like invite myself over to his house, he gave it to me. Like he saw me pushing myself too hard. He's like, you better like eat better and sleep better and chill out a bit, or you're gonna find yourself in a hospital. That's what he told me. Um, but I couldn't really get myself under control because there was so much inner unrest, like a lack of inner peace inside that I was trying to fix by doing more things and trying to accomplish more things and better things, and eventually just burnt out. Really kind of lost, and when I started a family and I started jumping into real life, you know, it was great on the one hand because now I had a purpose or something to work for and take care of, but it was hell on the other because I had no idea how the heck I was going to do it and I was a mess. So, it definitely made a lot of my own choices. Some of them were pretty poor, but you know, it's all for a reason.
So I talked to lots of founders, entrepreneurs, C-suite. I kind of talked to a whole host of people on this podcast, and a lot of the time I hear about burnout. A lot of the things you just talked about, burning the candle at both ends. You have to get a bunch of stuff done. Everyone's relying on me. Blah blah blah. And you mentioned that kind of burnout or lack of fulfillment. Is there like if anybody's listened to this, is there a simple mindset or body-based hack they can start to re-engage kind of like their sense of flow at work to kind of bring alignment?
I think that at the core of anyone who's burning out is the inability to just look in the mirror and be okay with what you see. It doesn't mean that it's wonderful. It's not. Parts of it are, parts of it aren't. And just be able to just sit with it and be okay. Because you're not running, like, you have first world problems, And living in Israel over the past couple of years, I've seen the stark difference between first world problems and third world problems. And honestly, like, first world problems are a lot nastier than third world problems because, when you're worried about a rocket hitting you or your family any day and you could all just be gone, you know, it's pretty simple. And you actually appreciate life a lot more. If you can get over the trauma of it and it doesn't freeze you, you actually live in a way a lot more fulfilled and better. But first world problems are nasty. First world problems are, I'm never going to be good enough. No one really likes me. I have to be better. Why am I not better? That is such a evil and difficult thing that everyone is trying to shake and no one's figured it out. And so you're not burning out because your family needs you, because your wife keeps bothering you and saying it's not enough, or because of this or because of that. You're running from yourself. That's why you're burning out, because you're running from yourself. And as soon as you realize that and you stop running and you're like, this is who I am, you take it one step at a time, your wife will be a lot happier with you. You'll make better decisions in your business. You'll realize you don't need to run as much because the running was never necessary.
Oh, I hear you. I lost you for a second. Yeah, that's holy. That's a banger. All right, that's what I call that right there. Interesting. Yeah, it's. Let me ask you this question. So, I think with personal growth or any of that kind of stuff, like it's always continuous improvement, kind of forever. I think a lot of people struggle with you're never going to reach the finish line. So it's continuous improvement for the rest of your life because you just keep setting the bar higher and higher. And I think personal growth can kind of go on forever and you hope to keep chipping away. Uh, what are your thoughts around kind of continuous improvement, personal growth, and things like that?
You know, that brings up to mind what I recently told a husband in a couple session, because what he was struggling with is always feeling that no matter what he does, it's never good enough.
Hmm.
Um, and I told him, you know, just imagine a scenario where you have this incredible program, elite school or training for I don't know what, to become something really special. But to get into it is like you have to go through a rigorous, horrific battery of tests, all different kinds of tests, physical tests, cognitive tests, emotional tests. And how the testing works and whether you pass or fail, like, and how that works is like not revealed to you. You just know you need to go through it. So you put someone into these tests, and every single challenge that he has, you give him, he fails. Like, it's almost the test is designed in such a way where nobody can beat it. And they give him another test and another test. It's like out of 100 tests, and he's now on like 50, and he's failed 49. He's going to fail the 50th. In his mind, he's going through hell. But those that are testing him are looking at this guy and they're like, this guy doesn't quit. He's pretty good.
Mm.
He just keeps coming back for more. He keeps coming back for more. So what I told him was like, you're going through life and the challenges that you have, expecting you're going to pass a test. And everyone's going to clap for you and it's going to be awesome. And your wife is going to celebrate you. And like, no, you were not designed to succeed. This is not a test that you're like, going to get an A+ in. Like, it's a test to see, do you keep on going? Like, your wife doesn't expect you to like get it right. We're hopeless. Of course, we're not going to get it right. What she wants is that you keep on showing up again and again, trying, and that you will not ever give up. And you're not looking to be told how amazing you are. You just want to be there. So I think that a lot of it has to do with, if we're looking for this internal validation because of this voice in our head that tells us all the time we're not good enough, we're not showing up to the test and the challenge of life. But that's why we're here. That's what God is looking at when he's putting us in here. He knows we're going to screw up. He designed it for us to screw up because he likes when we keep on going to get better. And so when you see that this whole thing is designed out of a love and an appreciation for who we are and the journey that we're going through, and when you actually start to taste and feel what that journey feels like, to get closer to yourself, to discover a different way of being, a different way of touching and influencing and helping other people, you just love it. Like it just becomes something, and like that's why it's so important for people to be weird, embrace what they enjoy, because that's what it's supposed to feel like. That's what life is supposed to feel like all the time. It's not supposed to be about pleasing others or like being good enough. Screw being good enough. Now, okay, let's say you're enough. Great, you're good enough. Now what are you going to do? Now
Now
what are you
what?
going to do?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So true. Man, that's really good. You're making me think.
That's what I do, brother.
I know. It's really good. So interesting that, you hear from leadership coaches. I keep saying it's so interesting. It's not that interesting. Everybody, you can tell me to stop saying that. Um, you know, failure, get comfortable with failure, stretch yourself, growth, try something new, try something that scares you all the time. Like all the cliche things, right? And I'm a part of that cliche thing, but it's really being comfortable enough to step out, to do things you love, show other people that you love them, even if it doesn't follow the norm, and like look like a fool. All of the things, because if you're having a good time or you're learning from it or it's happiness, like that's the whole game we're supposed to be doing anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I look at some of the early content I made when I started, and I look at it today and I cringe.
Of
I'm like,
course.
oh man, that was bad. But like, if I hadn't have done that, I'd still be like walking around as a shell of myself, too afraid to try and see
Mm.
and, reveal to the world the gifts that I have and how I can help people. And so it's, you look at it, I don't know if like people, like if you look at people who built themselves up, but you could catch video, like I've seen people who are incredibly successful today, but if you see videos of how they talk and how they carried themselves 20 years before that, they seem to, you could hear it in their voice. They're unsure of themselves, they're nervous, they're jittery, not much different than I am. But you look at them today and they're like, they seem like they're on top of the world. So it happens.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean the construction industry is pretty rife with mental illness, depression, anxiety, like you name it, because it's hard work. It's very male dominant, obviously, which I don't think we're the easiest on each other, um, from a male to male perspective. And some of the things you talk about with just like being afraid to show what you do, because in the U.S. it's kind of, there's like the trades have this view, and that's changing, which is so good. But like being able to work with your hands is like such an amazing thing, because I am awful at it. So I get to work with people every day who are so much better at something that I'm absolutely horrible at. And I just put it on such a pedestal because it amazes me what people can build with their hands and their mind, and just take something from a drawing and flat pieces of metal and turn it into just unbelievable artwork. Um, and stepping really into that, I like the word superpower, and just letting people know like what you're really good at, and like this is where I fit into this giant puzzle, like you said, of the koosh ball. Like I just wish people would just be proud of that and send it and yell it from the rooftops, because the individualistic traits we all have, or superpowers we have, is what makes us you know what makes us so fun. Is, for me, talking to people, working with other people, being in larger groups, and just kind of looking at people and how they can bring so much value to your own world. Like I don't think we spend enough time like really appreciating and talking about strengths and weaknesses in a positive sense, because you need both of those.
Yeah, it really goes to, again, I think the like humility, what people think of as humility, but it's not. Um, like the fear of revealing who you are and your talents and uniqueness and individuality to the world. There's just a lot of mental clutter and garbage around that. Um, but yeah, that's the devil does a good job at that these days. Does a really good job. And but there's a trick we that gets played in our head, that we think that if we think less of ourselves, we'll be better. But it's the opposite. If we think less of ourselves, then we wouldn't expect more from ourselves, then we have an excuse to be worse. Or
Mm.
even worse than being bad, to just be okay with being mediocre. It all starts with that. Like as a coach, I can work with someone who is frustrated, upset, depressed, angry, difficult, resistant. That is a lot easier to work with when someone who's like living a mediocre life and says, I'm really happy with this.
Oh.
It's good. You can't work with that. It's impossible.
I've seen a bunch of stuff today that I think I've ever heard before. And that is I think the kindest, one of the kindest things I think I can say, in the sense of like, your thought process is so unique to anything I've ever listened to before or had a conversation with. It's been super powerful.
Yeah, my brain is different. It's for sure.
It's amazing. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's amazing, Ari. It really is. And even just the concepts, like I've heard, like in the leadership world, there's a lot of the concepts, but like you're very intentional about the words you use. And I appreciate that. And like how you're trying to get your message across. And I don't know, it just, yeah, the authenticity like screams through. So huge props to you. What's next for you? What's on the horizon?
No, just keep flowing, I guess. You know,
Yeah.
marriage work has become more and more interesting, so I'm leaning a bit more into that, but still do all different forms of life coaching. Um, and then just, trying to snowboard as much as I can,
Yeah. Sick.
trying to enjoy my kids as much as I can. And just still, growing, learning, um, experiencing this high and this amazing thing that's life.
Hmm.
It's an art. Living is really an art.
Yeah, it's beautifully said. Ari, if people want to get a hold of you, or like, this person's profound, how do I work with them? Where do people find you?
Yeah, head to rabbiflow.com. So
Greatest name ever.
that was a gift from God that I got about a month or two ago. I
Nice.
couldn't believe that domain was available for like $11. For
Let's
$11. Rabbi, no one thought of it. It was held back, waiting just for me to take it. And as soon as the idea came into my mind, I took it. Um, but yeah, my phone number, email's up there. There's a link there to book a call, a Zoom call with me for an hour. If you want to talk, yeah, you can find me there.
Ari, this was a wonderful experience for me. Thank you for dropping so much knowledge, and uh, yeah, dealing with all of my totally ignorant questions around a lot of things that you were talking about. So I really appreciate that.
You know, you got to talk better about yourself because your questions weren't ignorant. They were open. They were easy to answer. They allowed me to go as deep as I wanted to go. Um, yeah,
Well, thank you
and
for that.
a simple question is the best question.
Hmm.
People try to get too smart about things they don't even know what they're talking about. I always thought smart people were very stupid because smart people will use complicated language to make it seem like they know what they're talking about, but they don't even know what they're talking about. It's humble people who think that they're stupid that are really smart because they're humble enough to ask, "What are you talking about? I don't understand." And so they actually understand something, and what they understand is fundamental and deep.
Yeah, I did. I looked up quite a few definitions when I was putting your questions together, because I didn't know some of the words that you were using. So I had to go look them up, because I was like, where are we going to go? Oh, and I didn't want to be complete novice. But yeah, a lot of your concepts I'm very ignorant to, which I love the word ignorant, because people put it such a bad connotation, but we're all ignorant about a lot of stuff. And that's one of the reasons I do this podcast, because I love learning new stuff from just
Ah,
really
okay.
interesting people.
Nice. Let's celebrate ignorance then.
Yeah, stay
Weird,
weird and get ignorant, baby.
weird and ignorant.
All right, this was wonderful. Thank you for staying up so late, because if you're still over in Israel, it is quite a different time zone.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't want to pass this up, so I was like, all right, let's do it.
Okay, well, I would have definitely been more accommodating if I wouldn't have. Apologize, I should have known that. But thank you for coming on. This was absolutely wonderful. Rabbi Flo, brilliant name. I can't believe either it was available. So, yes, thank you for coming on, and I appreciate it.
All the best. Thanks so much for having me. Bye, Brandon.
See ya.